Hi and welcome. I'm Katie Hacker, and today on Beads, Baubles, and Jewels, designer and blogger Molly Shaler will show how to use crimps and other findings to finish your jewelry so it will last. Hi Molly.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So this is something that everybody needs to know because
Definitely.
lots of finishing techniques can be used in different ways, but and it's all about the beads, of course.
It's all about the beads, but you got to start with the right things. So I kind of want to show you the right stuff to start with, and then you can kind of play with it and see which things you like best.
Sounds
which
great.
techniques.
Yeah.
Well, one of a beader's favorite is often the flexible beading wire because it's durable. It can match with all your projects. You know, you can choose different finishes. So like we've got a rose gold and a kind of coppery and a black, and then there's a typical silver. And basically, to start off with, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows, because not everybody knows, that there are different like widths of beading wires, and then there are different beading wires that have different numbers of strands within them. So those little tiny strands are coiled up, and basically the more strands that are in there, the higher the strands, the more flexible your wire is going to be. It won't hold kinks as much. So one of the first little gadgets that that I found that's really kind of helpful to use is this piece right here, this little finding, and it's in a horseshoe shape, and it kind of guards the wire, and all you do is you thread your wire up through and back through it, and then you pull it tight, and then that right there provides a little bit of an extra coating on the wire of that nice hard metal against your clasp or your jump ring or whatever it is.
Right, so it gives a little extra protection.
And another option that you have, and often this next technique is, or this next material is used with silk cord and other cords that are really pretty fragile.
Right.
But you can also use it on your beading wire to help out. And they're different diameters, just like there are of your beading wire, and it comes in different colors. And they're like tiny springs. It's called like a French bullion. And it's really flexible. It looks nice, and all you would do is, I kind of already did one here so you can see it, but you thread it onto your beading wire, and it just pull the beading wire tight like that, and it makes that nice coating. It looks fabulous with metal findings.
It does. It looks really pretty too.
So
adds a nice touch there. And that one, it comes in different sizes, like you said. You can thread it over other stringing materials, and I think that's a really good idea to try it over beading wire too.
Yeah, it just makes it look a little more finished and a little more substantial.
Right, and of course you can choose different colors of crimps too when you're getting ready to finish your ends.
Yeah, definitely. So if you want it to stand out, you can do it in, in a color that's like really different. Like you could choose these dark gunmetal ones against the gold, which is kind of a fun thing now, the mixing metals idea. And also you could do like just gold to kind of be a really nice, smooth, seamless transition into your beadwork.
Right, so let's take a look at some of these crimp tubes so that we can show the shape. And I'm a big fan of using the crimp tubes at the end too to attach your clasp.
I like them. Whoops. What you also need to notice when you're looking at these is that they're different sizes.
Right.
So take that into consideration when you're choosing your beading wire.
Okay.
Well, now that we've kind of got that covered, we can go ahead and talk about different ways to finish your beaded designs. What I've got here is a crimp covered by a crimp cover. So one of those obvious things. But what it does is it makes the crimp, it hides the crimp, and then it just looks like a small silver or gold bead or whatever you'd like to at the end.
Right, it looks really finished.
So I'll go ahead and show you how to crimp first, and then I'll show you how to use the cover.
Sounds good.
So what I've got here is, I'll go ahead and trim this off.
I like the idea, all these little the simple bracelets that you made too to show. They look really pretty with the little spacer beads in between. Having some beads with your agate there is a nice touch.
I know. These remind me of kind of like a giraffe print or something like that. It's a little bit earthy. Now I got to get everything lined up here. Put that down. I'm going to need all my fingers to go ahead and get all the beads lined up. So what I've got here is, there is my last bead, there's the crimp tube, and then there's the jump ring with the clasp on it.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is get them all back lined up again. I'm going to let the wire feed it back through the crimp. Some people feed it back through a couple beads, but when I'm crimping, the wire really wants to cross, and I feel like I can't control it as well if it goes through a couple beads. So I would crimp first, and then if I want to feed the wire on through other beads, I still can.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that your wires are exiting parallel.
Yes, they definitely should be parallel. And I'm going to try to hold it here. for you so you can see. These are crimping pliers. The thing that makes crimping pliers different from regular pliers is that they have kind of a set of two little spots in the jaw. One is oval and one is sort of like a U shape.
Right, and it has a little dimple in the middle.
Right. And everyone kind of, not everyone, but I have a way that I crimp, and everybody's got their own way I think that they like best. But my best way is to go ahead and use the outer jaw first so it makes an oval, so then those wires really do want to fall into.
Get separated.
Yeah. And then you're going to use the inner jaws and you're going to squeeze, and it'll create this with channels so that you can see your wires going through there. Right. And then you're going to fold it in half. And sometimes I give it a little tiny extra squeeze.
Yes, me too. That looks good.
Because it keeps it nice, and then always test it, especially with bracelets, give it a nice tug.
Right, so you can make sure it's secure.
Yep. And then once you've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and just trim it.
Okay.
But if you wanted to go ahead and feed it through, you could do that. But for right now, I think for time purposes, I'm just going to do it like that. That's where then we come in with these crimp covers. And these are corrugated, which is kind of a fun texture for this.
Yeah.
And when I'm using the crimp covers, I like to use my larger jawed crimping pliers because they conform to the shape of the bead a little bit better.
And you can just use that outside to squeeze it on there.
So what I'm going to do is try to place this over the crimp. And like I said, crimps come in different sizes. So if you're using a large crimp, they're going to be more difficult to use with a crimp cover.
Right.
I found that the size 2 crimps work really well with the crimp cover. So I'm going to go ahead and I squeeze it, this way. I don't want to squash my other bead. And then I find that if I do a second squeeze on top, which seems kind of strange, but it actually causes it to fold together in a nice spherical shape and puts a little bit of pressure on it. So then you have your own little...
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay.
Corrugated bead. All right, now we're going to go on to, actually I have one more crimping thing I'd like to show you real quick.
Sure.
This is just if you want to use 2, like I have 2 beading wires coming through here.
Okay.
You just want to accommodate both of them in your crimp tube, and you can crimp both of them onto something. You don't always have to use one. You can use both of them.
So just make sure that you use a large enough size crimp that they'll fit comfortably without crossing inside.
Yeah.
Okay, let me move this out of your way here. All right.
Now this next board shows what I think is one of the simplest techniques to finish a bracelet, a simple bracelet.
This is one of my favorites too.
It is so easy, and it takes just a second. Just put a couple beads on there. Actually, we don't even need any more beads. We've got enough. What you can do is just, all you need to do on these is you just put this little cord right into this finding. And what you do is you have to, I always make sure, I try to push it most of the way in because you want to make sure that there's as much wire touching this little corrugated U-shaped part right here as possible.
Right.
And once that's in there, you just squeeze it so that it comes together like, I usually use my crimping pliers.
You want to make sure that you're squeezing the 2 straight parts so that that coil in the middle gets squeezed.
Just want to.
But it compresses without flattening the wire inside, which
I
is
need to get it in there again. I think. There we go. It was not all the way in.
There you go.
And then you just squeeze it.
Yeah, I like that one because it gives it a really nice finished look too, and it kind of stays in line with the piece.
And so then, then the beads just like cushion up right next to it, and that's just. It's so simple.
Right.
It's so wonderful.
Yeah, that is a simple one.
And there it is finished on both sides. And this one you can even get them with the clasps already attached.
Yeah.
So all you do is one squeeze on one side and one squeeze on the other.
Okay. Let's take a look at this one.
Now this one is one that also sometimes gets used with the silk cording and things like that.
Right.
Because it provides like a metal closure on the part that it comes against the clasp. I think a lot of times that's what you have to do. And these are called like clamshells is one word for them, and that's what I call them. And what you do is you just feed one onto your wire.
Yeah, this is a great way of attaching multiple strands too, if you have a multiple strand piece that you're working on. And I like all those beads that you chose. That's a really pretty color palette.
That coral is lately the color I'm drawn to all the time.
So pretty.
And then I slide a crimp tube on. Now, I'm using the smallest crimp available right now, just because I want to make sure that it's not too big and it doesn't cause the finding, oh, I'd already had one on there. It doesn't cause the finding to not be able to close. I want to make sure that it can accommodate it. So we're going to go ahead and get this guy on there. And with this, I usually flatten it with chain nose pliers, because this time you need to flatten it like that.
Yeah, so you just want to make sure that it's nice and secure.
Give it a
then
tug.
It's inside, so it'll be hidden inside there.
And so this is like a smaller sized crimp than one would usually use on this, because usually the wire folds back through.
Right.
But this time it doesn't need to.
So make sure that you're using a smaller one.
So you do that, and you fold it shut, being sure that the crimps go inside. And then there's a little loop on the end of a clamshell, and you can attach it to, this is just a multiple strand clasp, and
nice.
Close it up. It's
that
pretty
looks
simple.
Good. Yeah.
All right.
These are some great, I love the ideas that you're bringing here, because it really gives you some good techniques for getting, starting and finishing.
Yeah, you can apply it to all sorts of projects too. Like this is something that, like I said, that this is the workhorse of most beaders, is the flexible beading wire.
Yeah, this is pretty with all of your quartz points here. I love it.
They're so fun. I love I think it's electroplating that they do on those.
Pretty.
It's amazing. Well, this one right here, it looks a lot like a crimp with a cover over it, but actually there's a little screw inside this crimp. And what you do is you tighten the screw, and the screw traps the wires inside that really pretty orb of gold or silver, whatever color you want.
Finish. And I think too, those are removable, so if you wanted to change out your clasp or change your design, you could do that at some point.
You definitely can, but always remember, you can't go longer. If you trim.
You
can go shorter. That's what someone wrote to me once. They're like, but what if I want to go longer? I was like, no, you got to restring.
You have to redo it.
But you do all right with these. I think that they're really pretty. Now I've gone ahead and I've fed the wire through here into the chain link and back through. And I hope you can see this tiny little screw right here. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use this is the cutest screwdriver you'll ever see.
Everything miniature.
See, I'm hoping I'm opening the right end. I did. The other end, if you open this end, is a bunch of tiny little screws.
Right.
so that usually it takes one trial and error, and then you can get it. So then all I need to do to secure this is take a deep breath and tighten it down. And you want to tighten it all the way down. If you want to, this is actually a great way to test something out. They'll say you want to try something on first. Don't tighten it quite all the way. Tighten it enough so that it will hold. But you can put it on, try it out, fuss with it, and then if you need to change the length, you can.
use it as a stopper bead too if you need to.
Yes.
And remove it.
Oh, that's a great idea. I never thought about that one, but that is a good idea. So then you've got your little quartz points necklace.
Yeah, that looks good.
Super cool. And you would trim it again, just like the others. I think I'm going to be happy with that length and just stick with that.
Yeah, I love that piece. That's so pretty.
Thank you.
The amethysts are nice too. All right. So now we have another multiple strand piece here.
Okay, now multiple strand pieces are something. There are lots of ways to finish multi-strand pieces. You can use something that's a multiple strand finding like that, or you can use a bead cone, which is what I've done, or you can also just, like I said, just crimp. I wouldn't go more than 2 cords through a crimp. I feel like you're kind of testing your luck if you go more than 2 strands through one crimp. But this way, I think is a great way to make it's kind of like a bunchy necklace, something that you don't necessarily want to lay flat. You want it to be a clustery.
Right.
So I thought I'd show you really quickly how you do that, because sometimes you wonder, well, how did they get the beads inside there, and how did they do that? So what I've got here is my bead strand with a crimp on it, and then I have made a wrapped loop wire. It's just a simple wrapped loop. It's secure. It's easy to do with your round nose pliers, and then you just pass this through here and back through, and you'll crimp the tube. Make sure that it's secure. And if you do have a certain order you want to do your crimping or your strands to fall in, take that into account.
If you were making a graduated piece, you mean maybe where your 3 strands ones. Right.
Like this one has one that's a bit longer and then shorter and shorter. And so I thought I'd just go through and attach all these, and then you could see how it all comes together. And the piece over here that I had made that has the braid, it was really, I did kind of want the strands to be clumped together. Like I had multiple strands that I attached as groups, kind of like 2 of this and 2 of that and 2 of that through there. So I used kind of 2 techniques in that where I used more than one strand.
Well, that's something too. You can combine a lot of these different techniques. So like for this piece that you're showing us here, you could be using the French wire, or you could use a wire guardian, right, to cover where it's meeting your ring. There.
Yes, definitely. And sometimes when you've got multiple strands like this, you really want to take extra care with the weight of the piece and making sure that you're using materials that can withstand that weight. Right. So you'd want to use maybe, make sure you use a large enough beading wire, but that has enough flexibility that you'll still get a good drape with it. So I'm on my last one here. And once this is together, I'll go ahead and I will show you how easily you can just pass this up through the bead cone. And it covers up that.
Right, yeah, it totally covers the end. And of course you want to trim up your ends so that
I
it's not
definitely would trim up my ends. And then on the top, you just put your bead.
I love adding a little bead there at the top. It's sweet.
You can do that. You could even add a couple if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But
why don't you go ahead and show us your looping technique, because everybody has a different way of doing loops.
It's so true. So I'm going to go ahead and, since it's going to stay, I'll go ahead and trim this.
Here's a round nose plier for you.
Oh, thank you. I will need that. And also, something to take into consideration when you are using bead cones is the depth of the bead cone. Like this bead cone right here would be able to accommodate these larger beads, but this one, it has a lot of, same depth, but definitely a different diameter, so you'd use smaller beads.
Maybe with seed beads or some smaller things.
Seed beads would be great. And then these are really shallow, but they're fun if you want to use like larger bunches of beads so that it's a really clustery finish at the end.
I think something about these filigree ones too is sometimes you can open them up a little bit.
They have a lot of give.
You can kind of flex them out, or even make them a little bit flatter if you wanted to have your strands laying next to each other.
Yeah, I think
you can make it a little more rectangular shape. Oh, there's your loop.
There goes my loop. Okay, so I was automatic pilot.
It's okay.
So I started my loop, and I usually just bend it right over my round nose pliers, and then I use my fingers to bend around that way. And I like to switch it so I can see what I'm doing better.
There you go.
And then wrap. And this is nice too because it takes a little bit of, I don't know, like you can be a little bit, it tightens things nicely without making them too tight. Oh, I lost one. But it's something that works really well to finish your project.
Yeah, and then you can attach your clasp, or you can put a length of chain on there. Let's talk a little bit too about your finished piece here that's braided, because I know we spent a little bit of time here, but one thing I wanted to mention, this season we're talking all about color, and this one really uses a lot of different types of beads all together, but that color palette is what brings them all together.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that makes this look so good is that you have slightly different mutations of the same color with different textures and with different, like some are faceted and some are opaque and some are crystally clearish. And so I think that those different textures give a lot of depth to that piece that it wouldn't have had if it was all the same bead, even in different sizes.
Right, it looks really pretty together, and I think, you know, even this doesn't have that many different things going on per strand, but when you combine them all together, it is a whole lot happening there. But it's really simple to achieve with these kinds of techniques that you're showing us. Now what you did here is you crimped everything inside to a piece of wire and then ran it through your bead, right?
Yep.
And then at the back, did you just use jump rings to attach your clasp?
Just jump rings, that's all.
Super simple.
Yeah, it really is. And if you can braid, you can make it.
These are great techniques, and everybody's going to love getting started with you. Thank you so much, Molly.
You're welcome.